Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. I'm Ben Gold, the Executive Director at the Leominster Housing Authority. First, a big thank you to our maintenance staff, Gerson, Cintron, Denise Ivaldi, Kathy Santiago, Noel. Thank you all for putting this together. You did a great job. So we had postponed because of the pandemic, and we are thrilled to finally be able to gather and properly honor Jean with this dedication. Thank you to Melissa and her children and Jean's children and brothers, along with their families, for joining us today. Thank you to our state and local representatives for attending as well. We appreciate it. A very special day. Eugene J. Capoccia was the executive director at the Leominster Housing Authority from 1990 to 2015. Gene meant so much to so many people and was a legend in our housing community and industry. Many of our current employees at the Leominster Housing Authority were hired by Gene, and when I've attended events at Mass Narrow, there's nothing but heartfelt and sincere appreciation for the work that Gene did for public housing in the Commonwealth. Here in Leominster, Gene had a vision for a learning center. I have heard the story that in 1999, Gene was helping his middle school daughter with the school project. Completing the project required many supplies and resources, and Gene thought of how the children residing in Allencrest apartments, how difficult it would be for them to compete on a level playing field without maybe the materials that were involved in those projects. He worked with Paul Tresoloni from Leominster Public Schools to develop an after-school program in an apartment at Allencrest to provide homework assistance, tutoring, and project supplies. For 5 years, the school department provided financial assistance for the program. Soon after the program's inception, Gina Wurinen and David Fiandaka from the school department brought their enthusiasm and oversight to the project. In 2005, the Learning Center was awarded $60,000, split over 3 years, from the Break the Cycle of Poverty Foundation, founded by Chris and Jean Egan. This program is funded in part by the City of Leominster CDBG project and the Department of Urban Development. We hope that the center continues to thrive and that our dedication today will properly honor Gene and assist his legacy in transcending generations to come. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Mayor Dean Mazzarella.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all. Ginny, what are you smiling about? They're always smiling. The board's always smiling. Anyway, how appropriate is this? Gene's passing was a real shock to me, at least, and I'm sure many others. And Gene was really a steam engine behind everything that happened in the Housing Authority. He kept us busy. He always had new projects that he was working on, always. And every time I saw Gene, it was associated with another idea that he had. But I remember a lot of my friends lived here when we were growing up. This is a different place today. And the Learning Center, another big plus. And I don't know if Greg Lascotti's here today, but Greg was the impetus as well, working with Gene. They were good friends. They worked well together. He was on the board, state appointed by the board. But every single project in the city that is owned by and controlled by the Housing Authority has Gene's thumbprints on it, trust me. And to the board, thank you for serving so many years and caring for people. And he's just done a marvelous job. And I miss him as a friend and a colleague, and I think the other city departments that are here today will share that sentiment as well. He was hands-on. He knew every project. If there was a problem in the housing anywhere, he would take it on himself. He'd go meet with the tenants. I'm sure they're happy at the end. There's one of them now. And he really wanted people to be happy. And he wanted public housing to be safe, dignified. He wanted people to have a positive image of public housing. And I think he's passed the torch on. And that's what you see. And so we're so very happy to be here to see that Gene's name remains and his legacy continues on. So thank you. Mention that we're from the same village in Italy. That's right.
Thank you, Mayor. We welcome Ben Stone to the podium, DHCD Public Housing Director.
Sorry to use my phone. But thank you all so much for having me to speak at this dedication as the representative of the Commonwealth. Public housing in Massachusetts is a really unique resource. We're the only state, we have the largest portfolio of state-aided public housing in the country with over 45,000 units. And that unique resource is really all about the partnerships between DHCD as the funding oversight agency, the housing authorities and its residents, the legislators, the towns, staff, all the advocacy and social service groups that help out residents and housing authorities. And I never had the opportunity to work with Eugene Capoccia, unfortunately, but my colleagues at DHCD who did really admired him for having that spirit of partnership, being a great partner, and as the mayor said, always pushing and trying to do new things and innovating. Over his long and storied career, he was always a great partner to ensure that public housing continued to provide safe, decent, affordable housing for those in need in the Commonwealth. So working for 25 years at Leominster, he always worked to do things better and more efficiently so as to better serve the residents using the sadly often limited resources available. He was one of the first to push for regional solutions for the sometimes lack of resources at smaller housing authorities, establishing management agreements with Lunenburg, Sterling, and paving the way for what's now the North Central housing authorities, which now includes West Boylston as well. So he brought that spirit of partnership and advocacy to his roles at Mass Narrow, the Association of Housing Authority Directors. He was president from 2013 to 2015, served on many boards and commissions, helping to support other housing authority directors, and of course always advocating for resources and improvements for public housing. As a partner to DHCD, he's pushed us to innovate and make things work better, both through pushing regionalization where appropriate, and also challenging us how to look at regulations to make and change the regulations and our processes to make tenants' lives better. His drive to innovate came from his passion for supporting the residents of public housing, whether the elderly, family, or a special focus on opportunities for students and young people. This passion drove the creation of the Allen Crest, which we're now renaming the Eugene Capoccia Learning Center, even incorporating the work of volunteers and students, some of whom may have been residents of the LHA, into its creation. So it's completely fitting that now the Leominster Housing Authority renames this learning center the fruit of his drive and passion in his honor. We can only preserve this unique resource of state-aided public housing in Massachusetts with the partnerships of dedicated public servants like Eugene Capoccia. So I'm just really happy and honored to be here to honor him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. I have to lower this a little bit. Natalie Higgins, our state rep, is here. Welcome.
Really glad to see you all and to join you in honoring Gene's legacy and his memory in this learning center, and to bring a citation of congratulations to you all from the Mass House of Representatives. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much.
Very nice, thank you. Next up, we have Beth Walsh, Director of Constituent Services, on behalf of Senator Cronin, and Susan Templeton, District Director. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Ben said, my name is Susan Templeton, and I serve as the District Director for Senator John Cronin. To my left is Elizabeth Walsh. Her nickname is Beth, and she serves as the Director of Constituent Services. Senator Cronin is disappointed that he can't be with you today, but he had a prior commitment. This citation from the Massachusetts Senate is going to be awarded to the Leominster Housing Authority. So, Ben, thank you so much for staying right up here. This is official citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its congratulations to the Leominster Housing Authority in the recognition of the joyous occasion of the renaming of the community center. This official citation is signed by Karen Spilka, the Senate President, Michael Hurley, the Clerk of the Senate, and your very own Senator John Cronin. Ben and the Board of Directors of the Leominster Housing Authority, congratulations on renaming this on behalf of Gene.
Thank you.
Former executive director, person who took over for Gene, my old boss, Mass Narrow 2022 Member of the Year, Peter Prue. President's Award winner. Excuse me.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say that I left the torrential downpour in Worcester to make it up here today, and hopefully it stays there. Gene asked, sorry about that. Ben asked me to say a few words about Gene, and that's a difficult thing because it's almost impossible to say just a few words about Gene. Gene was and still is a legend in housing in Massachusetts. From Boston to Pittsfield, everybody remembers Gene and the work that he did, his dedication to all of the housing authorities that he oversaw like a father. He cared about all of the residents, he cared about all of his staff, and he endured to do things the right way to the best of his abilities. A couple quick notes, some of the things that I really miss about Gene is his smile, which could light up a room and take a terrible situation and make it better just through his smile. I will never forget the white-knuckled rides in his convertible from here to Boston along Route 2. Apparently the car did not have any brakes because he never stopped for a stop sign or a red light in all of the time that I drove with him. But no matter who you were, all you need to do is stand next to Gene and you would learn something. He just emitted knowledge, and I greatly appreciated that. And I just wanted to thank his family who are here today for sharing some of Gene's time with us. We are all better for that time that we are allowed to have with Gene. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Gina Wernan and David Fiandaca. Welcome.
Good afternoon. This is a great opportunity, very special. When I think of Gene, it makes me smile. He had a big smile, even bigger personality. And as a teacher, I could just imagine him in the classroom. Must have been a lot of fun. But he was very special. We had a problem, as was stated earlier. Children needed more support. And Gene said, let's get together and solve the problem. And we did. And Dave can speak to that as some of the ways that we went about it. But I am just very honored to be here, very honored that you are renaming the center. And thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Back when I was in the school department here in Leominster, Gina and I spoke frequently with one another. And one of the things that she brought to me was that Mr. Capoccia would like to do a building for some students located on Viscaloid Ave across the street from the school. So we took that into consideration, and after multiple talks, I decided it was time to call Gene. So I called at his office, and he answered, and I said, Gene, this is David Fiandaca from CTEI. He says, oh, I know what you're calling for. I said, you do? He says, yeah, look, I had to throw that family out because they were storing gasoline in one of the apartments. I said, Gene, I agree with you. That's not what I was calling about, but I would have thrown them out too. And it just went on from there. It was the beginning of a great relationship. And as the years went by, we were able to get together. And with the help of Bernie Kirsten, who's here today, he was Gene's assistant. We were able to coordinate what it took to build the building that is going to be named in his honor now. So I don't want to reiterate what everybody else said. All the things that you've heard said about Gene are oh so true. A person of immense character that I know I will never forget. Thank you.
We're honored today. I also am working with some wonderful students at Pittsburgh University in the Upward Bound program. Two of them, more than that, live here, but the two young ladies that are here with me today offered to say a few words because you need to hear from the students. What did this center mean to them? So I'm going to invite Josie and Chrissy to please come up. And this is Josie and Chrissy Evans from the Evans family that live in Allen Crest.
So I just want to thank Gina for giving us this opportunity to talk here today. And I must say that the center is really an amazing place for the students and even for the people who work there. It was always a place where after school kids could go and get help on their homework, just have someone to talk to, and it was a very welcoming place. And I really loved all the people who would work there because they were so kind to everybody. And it was just a place that I felt like it was a second home for me, and I really appreciated that.
I just want to thank Gina for this opportunity, like Josie said. So I am Christine. I prefer to go by Chrissy. I'm 16. We've been living in the Allen Crest community for forever. And it started out, I remember when we first started with the Allen Crest Learning Center, it was in the apartment over there. It was a red house, I remember very clearly, and I was always very jealous of all the kids who got to go there, but I was too young. And I remember my mom told me, well, one day you'll get to go there, you know, and I never imagined that it would turn into this huge building where kids could just come and feel accepted, feel like they can have the help they need. My family, obviously living in this area, we are not as well off as other families, and it's hard. I've definitely noticed that kids judge me for that, and it's difficult. You learn over time how to mask that part of yourself. But coming to the Allen Crest Community, the Learning Center that's now being named after Gene, was life-changing. It really was. I think that I learned over time to not be afraid of who I was, not be afraid of the place that I had come from. Because at the end of the day, you can't change who you are, you can't change where you come from. The only thing you can change is your perspective. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Great testimony. Thank you.
Stella and Joey Capoccia would like to say a few words.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for coming out. Thanks for having us here. It's really nice to be here. We've got a speech prepared, and truthfully, Stella did it all, and Steve too. I just get to look like the responsible one holding it. Before I get into it, I thought of two stories I wanted to tell about our dad, Gene Capoccia. One, I think, shows his compassion, and the other shows his great sense of humor that now all my friends have to deal with, as it's been passed on to me. But several years ago, it was on Thanksgiving, and I came down to visit to do Thanksgiving. The first thing that we had to do before we did any cooking, which was a favorite thing to do, he had worked out a deal with Boston Chicken. I think it's still called Boston Chicken, or is it Boston Market now?
Boston Market.
Boston Market. Anyway, we went over, he had worked out a deal with them, and we picked up 30 or 40 Thanksgiving dinners from Boston Market, and went over to the main Leominster Housing Authority and went door to door and passed them all out. And it was a really nice way to kick off Thanksgiving. So that's his compassion side. And he was so excited about it too. It's like, you could see he's like a kid, you know, with a trunk full of chicken and mashed potatoes. And then the other story I wanted to tell, which is just his sense of humor, I live out in Washington State, and he came out to visit me, and we were on the ferry system, the Washington State ferries, going to Orcas Island. And you can see, if you're lucky, all the orca whales every once in a while off in the distance. And everyone on the boat will run to one side of that boat and start taking pictures of all the orcas. So unbeknownst to the people on the boat, also in the bathroom, there was a big poster of an orca whale saying, you know, stay back, don't get within 50 feet. It had this picture of an orca whale jumping out of the water up close. So he goes, takes a picture of the poster close up, and then goes out and takes a picture of them out in the distance. And the rest of the boat trip, he's going around to all the strangers on the boat saying, oh, did you get any good pictures? Oh, you want to see mine? And he's showing them all the photos. And then they get to the one that's it's like 5 feet away. Obviously, you can see the gloss coming up. So he had a good sense of humor. I wanted to kick it off with that. I'll turn it over to Stella.
Awesome. And we'll probably, well, see, I have to lower this even more. The
Just gonna get
Capoccia's
lower.
As almost everyone said, it's Dad's legacy was huge, and so there's a lot of repeats because I think we all felt the same thing. Some of the things that as I sit here I think about that I'm enjoying the most is not only the community, but the kids that are riding around and feeling comfortable to, you know, ride down on their bikes and walk through an area, and it makes me feel like this really is a community area. And we hear the laughters and sometimes a little bit of the screams, but that's how a community center works, is that everybody here is part of the community. I want to also acknowledge, and it's a little bit tough, there are a couple people here that weren't here a couple years ago, his grandnephew Dominic and his new grandson Scott. So he would be so excited to have them here, and he would spend his time playing with them and not doing this. So I just, they're as much a part of his life, even though he never got to meet them. So it's been 2.5 years since our dad passed, since Eugene passed, and I would be remiss not to acknowledge how much the world has changed in that time. And that just makes me more proud that as we started the talks off, that we're still able to get together 2.5 years later with this amount of enthusiasm for the work. Among the many conversations that I had with Dad in the last few years, or the years leading up to his death, I was encouraging him, just, Dad, don't work so hard. Like, come on, you gotta relax, you gotta, you know, take some time off. But everybody knows he was goal driven. And it wasn't always to accomplish a big thing. It might be to bring the dock in Maine, or to fix a feast for his friends. And in the past 2 years, thinking about what all of this meant to him, it was the day-to-day legacy. It brought him joy, it brought him fulfillment. He had adrenaline like nobody I've ever met. He had creativity, and these were his fuels. And as Victor quoted several years ago, there was no problems for Dad, there were only solutions. And it really was about his legacy. And as I hear each person get up, that's the word. It's not a word that I came up with independently. That was who he was, because we all came up with it, and that's why we're here. I looked up the definition of legacy, a lasting impact on the world that is passed down through generations. And nothing could be more true than the Learning Center, as he's passing down learning and creativity through the generations. He would join a group with the magnitude of 1,000 personalities, and he was the force that brought people together in ways that had not yet been imagined. And nothing, as I mentioned, could be a more appropriate relic of this legacy than this Learning Center. In the years that led up to the construction, he would repeatedly dream of this education center and state that he just needed to find the money. As the director of the Housing Authority, he knew that he needed more than just a roof and 4 walls to make a living area and a community for people. And like Dad, people needed to feed their creativity and develop and build their community. The community center breaks the boundaries of what traditional housing authorities have to offer. A place where the next generation, our generation, the generation that's going to lift us up, can come and learn. The Allen Crest community. And these people are our future.
Dad was the ultimate optimist, and he saw the ability to rise and lift people up. The money eventually manifested itself, as we've learned, and the construction went through. Ultimately, as we stand at the foundation of one of his biggest goals, the Eugene Capoccia Learning Center, we're reminded that for Dad, the sky is the limit. That's what he wanted for the community and his kids. And I reflect back on his legacy, which we're all doing, and how quickly he left us. One of the things that I realize is that he left us with each other, that we are his legacy, that this community is his legacy, and that being here today, seeing everyone together, makes me feel like he is definitely still alive and with us. So thank you all for being here, and we need to keep this community going.
That was beautiful, thank you. At this time, does anybody else want to come up and say a couple words? Okay, so at this part of the program, we're going to all go around front and we're going to reveal the sign. It's sort of limited in space, so do the best you can to grab a spot, and then we welcome you inside the community center. Thank you.
That's on set on video. It's easier on video. You just have to do one after.
I'll do the countdown. Okay. Which I start at 5. Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3,